Welcome back, everybody. What better way to continue our coverage of the Falcons hiring Kevin Stefanski as their 20th head coach than bringing in the people that covered him in his first head coaching stop with the Cleveland Browns. It's my friend Chris Rankel. Chris, it's so good to see you from our sister station, WKYC. He's a sports anchor over there, does a great job. Appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk about Kevin.
Of course. I'm envious that your guys' coaching search is over. Ours has no end in sight currently.
You'll get there eventually. And it is a good feeling that the Falcons wrap this up, but with a guy that you are very familiar with, obviously. What are the Falcons actually getting with Kevin Stefanski as the head coach?
I think it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of coach Kevin is now that he's out of the Browns. He had success here. There was obviously some lows the last 2 years, just 8 wins. I don't know that that was all on Kevin. The roster was in a bit of a turnover. And when things were good, things were really good. I mean, you talk about a guy who I don't know if there's a head coach in NFL history that's had to deal with as much turnover at the quarterback position as Kevin Stefanski has had. Yeah. They went to the playoffs when they started 5 different quarterbacks in a season and got Joe Flacco off the couch and somehow made it with 10-plus wins. So he's a really good offensive coach. He's been able to manage a lot of chaos behind the scenes and on the field. So I'm curious to see what Kevin's going to be with some stability and maybe with a roster that's not in constant turnover. But I think it's a really good hire by the Falcons, and really this coaching cycle, probably the second best candidate you could have got.
I love hearing that from somebody that's been in the midst of what's happening within the Browns organization. Well documented that there's been a lot of change and turmoil there for quite some years in Cleveland. But there's a lot of Falcons fans that are actually genuinely worried, Chris, because of what you're mentioning, those 8 wins the last couple of years there in Cleveland. Why should that not bear any weight on his next chapter in Atlanta?
I think if you look at the quarterback play, and it's always going to come back to quarterback play, Deshaun Watson has not been Deshaun Watson. That's well documented over the last few years since he got traded to the Browns. And then look at the quarterbacks this year. Joe Flacco wasn't really that good at the start of the year. They go to Dylan Gabriel, a rookie they picked in the 3rd round. Dylan had some growing pains. He wasn't really able to get anything done. Then they finally turned it over to Shedeur Sanders, and you find a little bit of success, but really this team wasn't set up to win in the last 2 years. Their offense was historically bad. They couldn't score over double digits very consistently. It's one of those situations where you can look at Kevin and go, all right, 8 wins in 2 years, why? And it's pretty clear why right off the top.
Seems like there's a lot of things that were disjointed on the offensive side of the ball, but that's not to say it can't work here. Let's stick offensively. Stefanski seems to be actually pretty aligned with the new president of football here in Atlanta, Matt Ryan, who knows a thing or two about playing quarterback. His line of thinking offensively, it's wide zone, it's play action oriented. We haven't seen a lot of that in Atlanta here in the last couple of years, of course. How do you think that that mindset can actually help? Especially, we've talked about it, there's some pieces here in Atlanta where it could actually work.
Well, first of all, you look at Kirk Cousins. When Kirk Cousins had a really good year in Minnesota, his offensive coordinator was Kevin Stefanski. That's the perfect kind of quarterback to run his offense. And when you look at when the Browns had success on offense, when they went to the playoffs, they had Nick Chubb at running back and they had Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker, you could argue maybe he didn't fit the scheme in the long run, but what they like to do with the play action, with the tight ends, I think it's tailor-made for the Falcons offense, just looking at it on paper. And I would say if you're looking for fantasy football next year, Bijan looks like he's going to get a lot of touches if I know anything about Kevin.
Bijan's always going to get touches, but you're right. I think a lot of people were saying Bijan Robinson is going to have just a next level of success with Kevin Stefanski at the helm when it comes to offense. Falcons fans should be hopeful. A new coach is here, the 20th in the franchise's history. He's been through some adversity, and a fresh start is always a good thing for everybody. Chris, thank you. You know, let's not forget, too, Michael Penix Jr. still in the mix, okay? He's coming back in the fall, and who knows what he's going to look like when he gets back. So he does have to figure out the quarterback piece, but the point of that is he's done that before. He's had his fair share of quarterbacks to work through, and Chris done such a good job of illustrating just how tumultuous everything was in Cleveland. Cody, we've watched that from a distance. How much do you believe that a change of scenery could actually help Kevin in this case?
Leaving Cleveland can be a good thing. Ask the Baltimore Ravens. They left Cleveland as the Browns and then went on to have success. Ask Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. Losing record in Cleveland. Left Cleveland, went on to have success. Even LeBron's been able to leave the land and go have success. So a change of scenery, especially from that city, seems to be a good thing. And I think that definitely can be the case. Again, we trust Matt Ryan to make the hire. All the reasons you're happy. He's been around the league over the last 2 years, getting to know everybody. He knows everything about what's going around the league. He also knows knows what it's like to be in a huddle and call a play. So if you were so happy we hired him as the president of operations, Gene, you got to trust him.
Got to trust him. It's hard to have blind trust. I understand everyone feels that way with football, but there's a lot of love for Matt Ryan, and you have to understand that he's been around this game for a very long time. I think he knows what he's doing. I say I think because it's not proven yet, but that's what we're going to believe, at least right now. Let's go to kind of what Matt Ryan is thinking. He and the front office have very big decisions to make when it comes to free agents that are potentially going to walk out of that building, Gabe. Who's someone that they can't let leave?
You need to keep Caden Ellis. And you talk about the breakout that he's had here. You talk about how important he's become. We were just discussing defensive continuity.
Yeah.
That's not a guy that you want to lose. And when you talk about building a culture, which this team, I do think they made strides, big strides in that area this past year, despite the final result, and especially defensively, your defensive culture. He's a guy, he's going to hold people accountable. He's going to stand there and speak. He's kind of a go-to guy, and I think that, again, he's age 30. Get it done. Get a multi-year deal done and keep him here.
Let me tell you something. When the Falcons start becoming a consistent playoff contender again, Caden will be talked about nationwide like he deserves. He wears so many hats on that defense. He is too valuable. You cannot let him walk out. It was Cody's answer, too, so I'm going to ask you a different question. What happens to Kyle Pitts?
Kyle Pitts, I would be one of those people. He's going to ask a lot of money. I want to give this new GM some money to work with, so I'm saying, Kyle, we appreciate what you've done here, and good luck to you. I think moving on from him would be fine. I look at last year, Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns brought in a rookie tight end in the 3rd round, and the dude led their team in receiving. He was top 10 in the league in receiving, plus David Njoku, who's been on that team the last couple of years. Stefanski can learn how to use a tight end, even if it's a young guy. So thank you very much, Kyle Pitts, and best of luck.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Kyle is probably not going to be in Atlanta much longer, but had an amazing end to the year. We'll see what happens with KP for sure.